Scream 3 is certainly the least liked film of the series. Um, like I said in my Scream 2 review, I really don't rank the films, so I don't really know where I would put it amongst all the other ones. But it's definitely a Scream movie that I really enjoy watching nonetheless. And I've always liked, first and foremost, the setting. We go from the first movie where you have a small town, then you get into a college, now you're in Hollywood. And the setting, it really works bringing back the background series of the because it kind of brings in the Stab films back into more focus. Obviously, in Scream 2, you had Stab 1 being the premiere movie, and it's talked about a couple different times throughout the movie as well. You even see clips from Stab 1. And so the importance and the quasi character that the Stab series themselves bring to the Scream movies becomes more and more important throughout the Scream movies as they go on. So I really liked how Scream 3 kind of brought Stab back into the focus more and just didn't leave it at the wayside. Also came out 3 years after 2 and was at the tail end of a mini era of 90s slashers. It could have been one that kind of fell by the wayside. It could have been maybe too comfortable, or sometimes filmmakers could be leaning too much on what worked in the first movie and the second movie, and maybe tried copying those movies too much. And a lot of movies tried doing that. They tried copying the success of others, and lots of times they fail because they don't have an identity of their own. But I felt that Scream 3 did a really good job of having its own identity. We start off simply by Cotton Weary getting a call in his car from Ghostface, who is attempting to find where Sidney's located. Cotton threatens him, causing not only his eventual death, but that of his girlfriend. This also introduces us to the fact that Ghostface is using a voice changer. The killing of Cotton has caused a stir on the set of Stab 3. The director, Roman, is afraid that the film could be shut down. The cast thinks the same. They want to continue filming for a variety of reasons, and it's stated that Angelina in particular needs the job because of how lucky she was to get cast out of the thousands who auditioned. Detective Mark Kincaid seeks out Gail's help with the murder. She identifies Maureen Prescott as the person in a photograph left at the murder scene. The continuing Gail and Dewey will they or won't they relationship continues as Gail and Dewey meet for the first time in a while on the set of Stab 3. Gail is met with hostility from just about everyone around her, but most importantly by Jennifer Jolie. Jennifer is playing Gail in the movie and is also befriending Dewey. Throughout the film, Jennifer hangs on Dewey, helping Gail see what she is missing. Sidney is living a secluded life, further steps to avoid fate. She hallucinates her mom crying out and comparing Sidney to her, and obviously hiding is not the answer for her internal issues that she has. And when Ghostface eventually calls her, disguising his voice as Maureen, she gets the push that she needs to confront her fate yet again. It's speculated that the killer is killing people in the order that they die in the script, but there's 3 versions of the script, so it's really hard to tell who is truly next. There's a lot of funny lines, but one of my favorite is right before it's revealed that Jennifer's bodyguard has been murdered.
Jennifer? Angelina? Tom?
God! What happened?
Don't do that. Overreacting.
Another cast member is killed, and Ghostface escapes, leaving behind another photo of Maureen, this time writing on it that he killed her. Randy's sister is in town, bringing with her a video recorded by Randy just before he died. It's at this point that we get more horror movie rules. The killer is superhuman, anyone can die, and the past will come back to bite you in the ass. One of the strongest parts of the movie is the quasi-love triangle between Gail, Jennifer, and Dewey. Gail and Jennifer are always at each other's throats, but team up halfway through and offer a lot of chemistry as Gail dons her detective role and Jennifer continues playing the Gail character as they seek to find out more information on Maureen's Hollywood history.
jeez.
What the hell are you doing?
Being Gail Weathers. What the hell are you doing?
I am Gail Weathers.
Here's how I see it. I've got no house, no bodyguard, no movie, and I'm being stalked. Because someone wants to kill me? No, because someone wants to kill you. So now, starting now, I go where you go. That way, if someone wants to kill me, I'll be with you. And since they really want to kill you, they won't kill me. They'll kill you. Make sense?
None.
Sydney's chase scene on the movie set of her home from the first movie points to two killers. The bedroom door seemingly moves by someone somehow, or magically by phantom air, with the ghost face crashing through the window behind Sydney. It's just a really interesting scene because you really don't know how Ghostface could be moving these doors, but maybe it's a set after all, so perhaps the doors are kind of made to be more movable, or who knows, but they move. Maybe it's just Sydney freaking out. Maybe it's her hallucinating again. She's about to do it in a few moments anyway. But anyway, it's just mainly to set up the fact that Ghostface scares her. There's a chase scene. She throws Ghostface from the second story onto the first story of the set, onto a bed, and runs over to see if he's running back up the stairs back after her, but he doesn't. And there's basically no known way that Ghostface could go from the bedroom on the bottom to the bedroom on the second floor of the set. But what happens is, when Sydney realizes that he's not chasing after her, she starts hearing a voice from a nearby bedroom. So she goes over to the bedroom. There's a swirling of voices, her mom's voice coming from inside the bedroom, but also dialogue from the first movie is kind of creeping into her head. So you know she's hearing things. There's no way that this is audio going on with her on the movie set. This is definitely in her head. The only question is her mother's voice in her head, or is it Ghostface using his voice changer? And then she enters the bedroom. It's a set for the murder of her mom. There's a body on the floor wrapped in a coroner sheet. Anyway, the body stands up, talking like her mother, and she dives out the window. Now, a lot of people will point to it and say, okay, look, there's obviously the first Ghostface that fell on the bed, and then there's this other Ghostface up in the bedroom. But we already know that she's hallucinated her mother before, so it's kind of obvious or telling that she's really just hallucinating her mother once again here. The final showdown is at producer John Milton's house, where characters have gathered for a birthday party. Some are there for the birthday party, some are lured there by Ghostface, and then it turns out that Roman is the sole killer. Him being the unknown brother of Sydney, who helped mastermind the killing of Maureen, and is now back to try and make her pay for the mother, family, and stardom that she received that should have been for him.
You're gonna pay for the life you stole from me, Sid. For the mother, and for the family, and for the stardom, and goddammit, everything you had that should have been mine!
God, why don't you stop your whining and get on with it? I've heard this shit before!
Stop!
In the end, Scream 3 adheres to its trilogy rules, and to me is a great ending point for a trilogy. Although there's going to be further movies afterwards, this is the final movie of the Scream series in quite many years. I've seen several reviews for Scream 3, and besides maybe a couple things, I've never really understood the hate for it. I know people don't like the fact that the killer is her unknown, long lost half-brother. That's a personal thing. It's not a fault with the movie itself per se, so I never looked at it as a fault. I just accepted it, and that's just the way it is. And another thing I think a lot of people see is that they feel that the film's kind of a cheat when it produces one killer instead of maybe two, which you might be expecting. I mean, the first two movies had two killers, and it seems very plausible that there's two killers in this one. So I think a lot of people just kind of didn't like that there was one killer, but made sense to me, like I explored earlier. And previous script drafts and ideas aside, the final film has one killer, and that's just the way it is. It's plausible if you really want to believe that Angelina was the second killer, then that's fine. Roman probably met her and planned the murder spree before he had even auditioned her to get the role of Sydney. So and that kind of ties back to the beginning where you learn that she won the role out of thousands of other auditions. And okay, well, yeah, Roman made sure she did, I guess. But yeah, if you really want to look at that as her being a second killer, even though it was planned originally, then by all means. And then you could just count it out as, well, maybe in the end he just killed her and drug her away to maybe just make things more simplified. I mean, he really didn't need her other than just maybe to help him with some of the kills or do some things along the way. But he's at the final act showdown. It's all about him. I mean, we know his motivation to kill is him. So he got her dispatched and out of the way. So I think whether you believe that there's one killer like the movie says, or if you know that there's two killers because of previous drafts and there's things in the movie that points towards two killers, you can still have that storyline and that functionality in your mind. Another thing I think people look at is the voice changer that Ghostface uses. It's one of those technologies that is certainly becoming more and more present nowadays with AI technology and being able to mimic voices. I don't even know exactly how much today you could try and steal someone's voice and mimic through some type of device, but the device, at least in the movie, was just not used because it had a functionality to trick people. It got Sydney at the John Milton's house at the very end because he was able to trick her, and it obviously had functions throughout the movie. So I lean towards the functionality being more important than whether the technology could have existed. And it does feel as though the movie is light on gore. The sequel, Scream 2, stepped it up in the gore department. They even said that one of the rules was more elaborate death scenes and more gory kills. And we all kind of know about the Columbine and the effects that it had on some movies around the time that Scream 3 came out, and they wanted to limit the gore. And not that any movie is made better with gore, but I think Scream 3 would have been better with gore. I think that's a great example of it. It lessens the overall feel of the movie a little bit, but doesn't outright make it bad or anything. So again, one of those points that I'm just kind of indifferent to overall. I think Scream 3 is a really good entry in the series. I especially like the third act. I think the whole showdown's great. The fact that it's kind of like in a mansion and characters are dispersed throughout the entire mansion and you don't necessarily know who the killer is. It could be someone there. It could be maybe someone who's not there. Who knows? But I did like the third act quite a lot. And I especially liked the interplay between the characters of the movie throughout the entire thing. The dialogue and every scene seems to have just great interactions. So I think that's a really positive to keep the movie flowing and keep it interesting. And it did a great job of doing that. There's a quote early in the film that says, "Pop culture is the politics of the 90s." And this very much sums up a lot about the themes of these films. Mostly it's the cast of Stab 3 that represent people who react to what's going on around them with less fears of the killer. They know there's a killer out there, but they're not seemingly too scared of what's going on. They still favor being able to film the movie and for the benefits that's going to give them, rather than hiding from a possible serial killer that could maybe be going after them. Detective Kincaid's love of pop culture translates to his interest in Sydney, and even though there's some subtle hints and some tiny little moments, it's never outright really going for a relationship between them two.
I always thought I had the perfect mom, perfect family. Until I found out I was wrong. She had a secret life, and I tried to understand that, and as soon as I thought that I had more secrets, I don't know who my mom was.
You know who she was to you.
But there's enough sprinkled in there that you kind of see it and hope for it, especially at the end, since he's at her house with Dewey and Gil and they're about to watch a movie. And that kind of brings me to the very end of it, you never know what movie they're going to watch. I think he says something like, it's a surprise or something like that. But definitely let me know in the comments what you think the movie that they could have been watching was. I personally think it's Terminator 2, for no real reason other than in part 2 of Scream, when he kind of says that Sydney has that Linda Hamilton thing going on. So that's my guess. But anyway, final thoughts. If you can ignore some things that make people dislike the film, which I tend to ignore just because I don't want to let silly little things affect my love of the movie. It's definitely not one that's skippable. If you're going to watch Scream, you're going to watch Scream 2, and then you're going to watch Scream 3, because it's all part of an everlong storyline, mostly dealing with the characters and their internal struggles. Sydney with her internal struggle of hiding versus just accepting her fate and going for it, and then also the struggles between Dewey and Gale and their relationship off and on again, and what their future is going to lead for them.